This was my only sweater I had out so far. Yes. That was so late. It's going to be right. Okay. All right, good evening. I'm Nikki Winslow, Director of the Altadena Library District, and I want to thank you all for braving the cool weather tonight to join us with this exciting event, which we're glad happened. We were wondering last night amidst evacuation orders, fire and ice, a reading and open mic. So this year has been overwhelming for our community. From the devastation of the Eaton fire to the trauma of immigration raids to the upheaval of national and global politics and policies, everything we faced has left its mark. But it's also proved that our community is resilient, that our community is strong, and that our community will move forward to heal, to rebuild, and regrow. And that's what's at the heart of our district's vision. In Altadena, where all are learning, growing, and thriving together. That's what we work toward, and as we support our community. So we come together for events like this, to listen to our neighbors' stories, to feel the weight of their emotions, and to hear their truths. So let's get started. I'd like to share our land acknowledgement that we like to start all of our programs at the library off with. The Altadena Library District acknowledges its presence on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded land of the Gabrielino Tonga peoples. Altadena is located on the stolen homelands of the Hapamanga tribal band. The traditional territory of the Gabrielino Tonga is referred to as Tabangar, which includes the areas currently known as Los Angeles County, Riverside County, West San Bernardino County, parts of Orange County, as well as the Florida Channel Islands. Entities such as the U.S. government and non-native settlers have subjected the Gabrielino Tonga peoples to historic and continuing injustices, including genocide, forced displacement, and cultural and linguistic erasure. Altadena Library commits to learning, educating, and informing its staff and residents of present-day Altadena about the rich histories, vibrant communities, and culture of the Gabrielino Tonga people, present and past, through our collection development, resources, and program offering. So before I introduce our poets, I do want to apologize that I have to run out. I'm double booked. I'm going to be at our Friends of the Altadena Library's board meeting next, but I'm really glad I was able to be here to welcome all of you and see you all again. So now, without further ado, please help me welcome our 2025 American Academy of American Poets Fellows, our 2024-26 Poets Laureate, Sarah Sonor and Lester Grayson.
Thank you, Nikki, and thank you everybody for coming. Is that good with the mic? Yes. We'll
Yes.
do it.
A little closer, yeah,
Oh, all right,
there we go.
there we go. Just really thrilled to have you all here, and I love this weather. It's well, my name is Sarah Sonor. I serve as school board laureate alongside Lester Grayson, who's right here. Thank you for joining us in celebration poetry and the poets laureate tradition that the Altadena Libraries has started, and this has been going on for 20 years. We will be celebrating the anniversary, the 2 decades of the Altadena Poets Laureates history as having blazed the trail in spring, in March, April 2026. So we don't forget for that. Our programming this year will be a reflection of healing after the fires, even as we make connection between local and global struggles and histories. This reading series is funded and funded by, as Vicky said, the Academy of American Poets and the Levin Foundation, as well as by the Altadena Library and the Altadena Foundation. Many thanks to our new program manager, Christina Cortez, who's sitting in the back. Thank you. Thanks. As well as to the library's team, Nikki, Ashley, Bren, and Katerina, who is doing the tech work today. She's doing the live streaming. Thank you, Katerina. And also thanks to the Poets Laureate for the legacy that they have built. Before we get started, here are quick announcements. That's it.
Thank you, and thank you all for coming. You'll see on your chairs, there is a call for submissions for the 2026 anthology. It will be a print edition. The call went out October 1st. You will have until December 1st to make your submissions. Please follow the guidelines. Note you're going to be submitting to both the anthology and to the publisher. And we look forward to seeing what they're going to be submitting based on what happened in the 2025 anthology. I know it's going to be rich and powerful. So thank you.
Thanks, Lester. And there's a lot of flyers in front of you, so just so you know, if you want to read the current Altadena Poetry Review, it is a virtual edition. It is available through this QR code. So it's all on your table, on your chair, so you can get that QR code. I think almost all the poets who are reading tonight have work in here and so get published when you submit. And also I wanted to say that our next event will be on November 8th, 2025. It's called Queer Poets Resist, and we will be featuring amazing poets like Ayoki, Marian Gerber, Angela Penia Donda, Veronica Reyes, Rachel Samet, and young writer Rami. Yummy. And you can get that program. You have a lot of documents. This one is the one that shows you the fall date and the schedule. The names of the poets reading are different because that have changed a long time, so that doesn't target always. But please attend on the 8th. There is at all our events this year. We are doing open mic. So everyone is invited to read them, and we already have a couple of people signed up. So today's reading was suggested, the title was brought to us by Teresa Mei Chuc, who served as Altadena Poet Laureate Editor-in-Chief from 2018 to 2020. She led a haiku and haiku workshop this past Saturday to inspire many of us to write about two subjects very much on our mind: fire and ice. That is also the title of a Robert Frost poem in which he opens with, "Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice." And I know for many, it doesn't the world. This afternoon, we will not read the bios of all the poets. Those are available to you on this document, this flyer that you all know about beside you. So poets will just step up and identify themselves and who they are. But I will give the bio of our first poet, who is not on here because he was added on late. Pasadena High School senior Alessandro Mariti. I've worked very closely with Alessandro over the past 2 years. He was deeply involved in the project in which he was researching the parallels between the Chicano border experiences, deportations in the 1930s, and the imprisonment of the Japanese American and the Japanese American community members during World War II. He is part of Pasadena Unified's high school leadership program and is about to step student forward. Please welcome Alessandro.
Throughout the month of February, many anti-ICE protests occurred throughout the state of California. On the afternoon of February 7, 2025, students of 4 USC high schools walked out in order to exercise their First Amendment right. I, along with students of Pasadena High School, marched to Pasadena City Hall and joined the students of other schools in protesting. The walkout was organized by a group of students from Blair, Marshall, Mira, and PHS, who created multiple Instagram accounts and spread the word of the walkout. Once word got to the administration of each high school, principals made statements saying that students would not be forced to stay in school, but that they would be marked absent if they participated. At 12:04 lunchtime at PHS, students gathered in the center quad and walked to the front of the school where the organizers of PHS walked out. Spoke to the crowd. We were originally supposed to walk to Marshall, meet up with them. And walk to Allen Station, take the train to Memorial Park Station and walk to City Hall. But the lead students asked us to walk to City Hall instead of taking our original route. Our people walked hundreds of miles for their rights, said one of the organizers as they spoke to the crowd. We can walk a few miles to City Hall. The point of our protest is to be seen and heard throughout the city. Halfway through the march, I realized that the group was not just Latino protesting. There were students of different cultures and backgrounds that were protesting with us, Latinos and Latinos. As we walked to City Hall, cars passing by honked at us in support. There were people on the sidewalk, people in front of their homes, workers on their shifts cheering for us as we walked past them. I never realized how much our community supported my ethnicity until this protest. I was on the verge of tears just thinking about how many people supported our cause. Many immigrants like my parents came to the US to work and to provide a better life for their children. People are ignorant about this fact and decide to deport people like my father. Separating families through deportation can lead to mental health struggles within the family, in which children will be the most affected. It breaks my heart whenever I see ICE detained immigrants, whether it's on the news or on social media, because my family and I relate to their struggles and because that could have been us. I'm very grateful for the amount of support we got from the protest. It means a lot to me. Once all the high schools made it to City Hall, we all got together to chant, cheer, and dance as if there were a party. It's a very rare, it was nice to see all the QSC's high schools united, as it's a very rare occasion. If there's anything I learned from this protest, it's that many marginalized groups stand in solidarity with La Raza, and La Raza never gives up and fights until the end.
Here, Altadena Library, thank you, Sarah and Lester, and thank you everyone for being here.
And you are?
Oh, and I am Teresa Mei Chuc. I was Altadena Poet Laureate Editor-in-Chief 2018 to 2020. Home to Los Angeles. Summer 2025 ice raids and US military occupation after Marina's Vitaiba. They took quickly, they took forcefully, took the street vendor and the day laborer. They took our mother and took our brother from us. Aunties they took also, and neighbors. They took the farm worker and they took the strawberry picker. They took the PhD student and took the professor. They took the patient and took the nurse. They took the books from us and took the words. Diversity they took, and equity they took. They took family and friends. But worse than taking home on earth from us, they won the battle for our spirits and minds. Food they took from us, they took our water. Clean air they took, and freedom too. But while we continue to care for and protect each other, the whole city is still armed. My next poem was written after the fires. My sadness is as great as a mountain, a haiban. I was a 2-year-old child lost in the seas of the aftermath of war. My family and I, Vietnamese boat refugees, who started a new life in Pasadena, California. Growing up in the city of roses, I attended Marshall Fundamental Junior Senior High School and soon found my second home in the stones and stream that flowed through Eaton Canyon, where I learned to balance, jumping from rock to rock up the stream to the waterfall. In these mountains, I learned to fall and to get up again. Learned that sometimes climbing down was more difficult than climbing up, because gravity could make you slip. The oak trees and bay laurels wrapped their arms around my sadness, and I felt loved. The deer taught me about the possibilities of life. The canyon gave me a silence that I could not find at home. The bird chirps offered me hope and joy, a counter to my father's PTSD and rage after fighting in the Vietnam War and spending 9 years in a Viet Cong prison. My family and I lost our Vietnamese motherland and so much more. In these mountains, I found my other home. When the fires burned in Altadena in the new year of 2025, my mountain burned down. The trees, trails, and streams that offered me friendship, that strengthened my body, mind, and spirit, not only in childhood, but throughout my life, were engulfed in flames, as was my heart. Black bears, squirrels, deer ran frantically. The wings of birds caught on fire. The fur of coyotes burned. Many friends lost their homes and many had to evacuate as the fire raced down the mountain. But I know in time, the mountain will return again, and so will we. Life, like pine cones opening to release seeds after a fire, will grow from the ashes. Indian paintbrush, Mariposa lily, native chia, black sage, fire followers. My heart, the Santa Ana winds today. Branches fall to the ground. Ice race, a high bun. We drive around posting posters on light poles in our city. This is where the day laborers hang out in the parking lot at Home Depot, and we put the flyers here in Spanish and English, warning them about the ice raids and who they could call for rapid response and for immigration support. We post the flyer on the light pole where the man who usually stands at the corner of the cemetery with buckets of flowers every day selling flowers. I have not seen him for over a month. I remember passing by the day after we had posted the flyers, and the last time I saw him, he was on his phone and looked worried. We post flyers on the poles where the street vendor usually sells their elote and snacks. I worry about the street vendors up the street who sell the yummiest tacos every night across from the gas station. When we saw the woman with her little cart of snacks going down our street in front of our home, we talked to her and offered support so that she could stay home and be safe. Every time I see a Chevy or Ford truck or SUV with dark tinted windows drive by, I wonder if it's ICE. If it's the kidnappers taking away our families and neighbors. I watched on the news a young teen selling tamales on the street for his mother every day this summer. We donated groceries so that the street vendors could stay home. I listened to the ice cream truck going down the street, its jingle, and worry about the ice cream man. People terrorized. Monarchs fly across borders. Sunflowers bloom. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Hazel Clayton Harrison. That's my, the name that I write under. However, I had to go through the real ID thing And I had to go back to my maiden name. So now I'm just Hazel Clayton. My students call me just Hazel. But I'm so happy to be here and I'm so happy to see all of you. I'm gonna share a couple of poems that I have written lately. It's been really hard to write. Because when you're displaced, I'm sure some of you may know, when you're displaced from your home, from the fire, you're in different places and you're living out of suitcases and everything's packed up in boxes. Fortunately, my house is still standing, but I'm totally just discombobulated for many days. But, you know, there are bright spots. There are days of sadness and of wondering how I'm gonna make it through the day. And then there are bright spots. It was like a week, 2 weeks after fire. My daughter and I went to Ghana. We had planned the trip months before, and we thought, what the heck? We're not gonna let the fire stop us, so we went anyway. And I'm so glad we did. And I want to share with you some of the experiences. Because you know, Africa really gets a bad rap. You know, when we were growing up, it was all Tarzan and King Kong. And when you go there, it's amazing. This one's called Hello, 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 Africa. Hello, 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 Africa. Standing at the head of the class, her face as dark as the Nile, her eyes bright as guiding stars, she sang, hello, 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 Africa. So good to see you, Africa. Her kitchen smelled of onions, garlic, peppers, cassava, plantains, and spices. All the ingredients she used to make jollof rice, fufu, and chicken stew. Hello, 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 Africa. If I could paint a picture of Mother Africa, she would be my mom. Wearing a dress of lilies and violets, she conducted a symphony of bowls, knives, forks, pots, pans, and spoons. Patiently, she taught us how to prepare a Ghanaian cuisine. Hello, 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 Africa. And when the food was done, it tasted like the rain, the flowers, the sun, the motherland my ancestors knew. Hello, 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 Africa. It was hard to say goodbye. Door of return. You all heard of the door of no return? Well, now in Ghana, there's the door of return because they've invited people, Africans from the diaspora to come home. I am walking with the spirits of my ancestors, walking through the door of return. The door of no return is no more. The door of no return is no more. My ancestors were kidnapped from Africa's shores, shackled and tortured. They were forced to walk barefoot for hundreds of miles to slave castles along the Gold Coast. There they were stripped of their garments, their families, their names, branded like cattle, and shipped to a strange new land. I am the daughter of Morris and Dorothy, the granddaughter of Fred and Essie, John and Iona. They lived so I could be born. Now I have returned to our motherland. Now I have a new Akan name. I am walking, I am walking, I am walking. Under my bare feet, sticks, stones, and thorns pierce my skin. I hear my ancestors singing and praying. I speak to the trees, the river, the wind. I am walking, I am walking, I am walking. I feel humble, grateful, and strong. I am walking through the door of return. This is a short essay about one of the most exciting things that I've ever done in my life. And again, sometimes you have to leave home to really appreciate what the world has to offer. And then to come back and bring the stories and the experiences and the joy back with you. And so that's what I attempt to do. This is called Crossing the Cocoon Canopy Bridge. I don't know if any of you know what a canopy bridge is. Oh my God, it's one of those swinging bridges that are over like, a forest, a ravine, a chasm. And its points, but anyway. We started out at the beginning of the trail beneath a large sign arched high over the entrance to the Coombe National Park. All 10 of us were members of a Ghanaian tour group. In my 70s, I was probably the oldest member. The others were vibrant in their youth and middle ages. I was in reasonably good health, but would I be able to keep up with them? Would I be able to cross the narrow, suspended canopy bridge, which towered over a tropical rainforest? According to our guide, the 2-mile walkway was made up of 7 suspension bridges. At a height of over 1,150 feet, they would provide a breathtaking view. From childhood, I've had a fear of heights. Would I be able to cross the bridge? Holding on to the rusty walking stick our guide had given me, I began the ascent up the trail, stepping over stones and large tree roots, passing moist over evergreens, ebony, and mahogany trees. We climbed up, 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 and up. I was doing fine until we reached the bridge. Looking across the chasm below, I froze. Suspended by ropes tied to trees, the bridge hung over the rainforest and was almost a quarter of a mile long. It had a creaky wooden floor and chest-high netting on both sides. As I gazed at it, my heart raced, my knees shook. Would I be able to cross? My daughter and I had been planning this trip to Ghana since the previous summer. In January, I had barely escaped the Eden Canyon fire. We decided to still go. Fortunately, my home had been one of the few that had not burned to the ground, yet the fire had consumed over 6,000 homes, 12,000 structures, leaving 17 dead and thousands displaced in its wake. Gazing over the shaking bridge, I knew that metaphorically, this was one of many bridges I would have to cross when I returned to Altadena. I reflected on my enslaved ancestors who had crossed the ocean in the transatlantic slave trade. We had visited the river where they had taken their last bath before being imprisoned in slave castles and shipped across the Atlantic. How did they find the courage and strength to conquer their fears? Come on, Mom, you can do it. I heard my daughter cheering me on. I would need both hands to hold onto the ropes. I handed my faithful walking stick to the guide. Knees shaking, my feet slowly moved forward. A gentle breeze blew, the bridge creaked and swayed. I held tightly onto the ropes. As I reached the halfway mark, I felt lightheaded. Lord, what was I doing? Then suddenly I heard my mother's voice reciting a poem she taught me in childhood. Rickety though the bridge may be, How one crosses amazes me. Stopping a moment to ponder. It was cross or go under. Whispering the poem and looking straight ahead, I slowly made my way across. On the landing, I heard the cheering of my tour group. I breathed a sigh of relief. But there were 6 more bridges to cross. Resting on a wooden bridge, I decided to wait for the others to return. Having crossed the first bridge, I didn't have to prove anything. This would not be my last trip to Ghana. The next time I'd be better prepared.
You so much for that was beautiful. Hi, everyone. My name is Neelanjana Banerjee. So excited to be here today in this beautiful library with all of you. Really appreciated this this prompt. So I thought I'd share a little bit from a novel in progress that I've been working on. And this is set in 2005 in New York City, and the protagonist, Lavani, runs a girls group of South Asian girls in Queens. So it's at a meeting thinking about, unfortunately, all of these things. So I met with the girls on Mondays at 5 p.m. at the SAVE offices in Jackson Heights. The conference room we used was on the 2nd floor, upstairs from the storefront where people could drop in for legal services and other needs. For the past few months, we have been tracking the story of Tashnuba Haider. Tashnuba, 16 years old, was arrested by the FBI back in March, along with Adama Ba. Their arrests came out of the first terror investigation conducted by the FBI targeting minors. Tashnuba was arrested on the suspicion that she would use her own body as a weapon against the state. After months of being held and questioned in detention, she was cleared of charges, but then deported back to Bangladesh because of lapsed papers. Sent back to a country she hadn't called home for over 10 years. There were 6 girls that fall, mostly Bangladeshi American or more recent immigrants. Sharmeen was 19 and her little sister Fazia. Sharmeen had grown up coming to SAVE and there was primarily there to engage her little sister. She knew everything about the neighborhood, was overly eager and a little awkward in her first year at Bayside Community College studying accounting. She had recently started pinning her hair behind a scarf, trying out this look and her connection to Islam in a way that I know her more secular parents disapproved of. Fazia was loud and skinny and had a penchant for knockoff rural pantsuits, rolling her eyes always at her sister. Fazia's besties were Doreen and Noor, also 14. But Doreen wore hijab and Noor dressed in long skirts and kept her hair neatly back in a long braid. Pia came to fill out her college application extracurriculars box and was busy at Bronx Science, as she was adamant about showing up, though she usually just did her homework. Finally, there was Farheen, 17-year-old with big brown eyes that she managed to line perfectly. Farheen's father was in INS detention for expired papers, but Farheen was born here, so not under that rut, he hoped. The same crew that went into the detention centers to connect with the detainees, lawyers had made contact with him and had been meeting with Farheen's mother, who had 3 other children ranging in age from 2 to 6, so she had her hands full. Sometimes Farheen didn't show up or left early, and I assumed it was to help her mother. But last week I had to run down the stairs to sign for a package when I saw her a block away, holding hands with a brown boy in a sharp-looking tracksuit. She saw me see her, but didn't pull away from him. And the casual way he touched her made me understand that this wasn't anything new. I wanted to ask her to stay after that day so I could ask her how she was doing, but she left too quickly. I watched her that day as she lined up a row of peanut M&Ms on her styrofoam plate and picked each one up with her long manicured nail deposited into her mouth, her lips lined dark on the outside. She noticed me watching. What? She asked, defensive. I shook my head to say nothing. All right, I said, calling the group to order, asking the girls to check in, tell us what their week was like, what they'd been noticing in their lives and neighborhoods regarding the backlash against South Asians or immigration issues, everything we have been talking about for the last few months. Charlene raised her hand right away, of course. Well, I tried to search a few times for any other news on South Asian minors being picked up or harassed by FBI, but I'm not really finding anything, she said. I wonder if they consider Tashnuba's case a failure. Good question. I looked around at the other girls. What do you guys think? About Fazia rolling her eyes. Fazia? I mean, duh. Obviously, it's a major success for them. They were able to say they caught a possible suicide bomber / terrorist. But she wasn't, Charlene tried to interject. I know, but like the headlines and stuff, they made it sound like they averted the next attack. So they're probably targeting more kids, but they're gonna be quiet about it. I mean, what can we do? The FBI, the Patriot Act, we gotta just keep our heads down, not rock the boat. Can you imagine being sent back to live in Taka or some village? Last time we went back, my hair straight, blew a fuse in my Kala's house. Oh, hell no. Fazia stroked her carefully straightened hair to emphasize her point. Everyone laughed and covered their mouths to giggle. Even Farheen laughed, saying, "You so stupid, girl." Girl, Fazia said, your hair is straighter than mine. You gonna get blowouts and damn falcolo when you end up back there? Everyone laughed, but when I looked over at Farheen, she had her hands clenched on the table and was looking down. You okay? I asked gently. She stayed stubbornly quiet, her curtain of straight hair, light and brown, with henna covering her face. No, I'm not, she said. I didn't mean anything. Fazia rolled her eyes again. Farheen bolted up from the chair and ran out of the room. We heard her immaculate kid-sized Jordan stomping down the stairs. Ugh, she's such a drama queen. I wasn't saying that they're going to get deported, Fazia defended herself. Take accountability for your actions, I snapped at her. We're here to be in community together first. How we treat each other is what's important. Fine, Fazia shrugged. Should I go get her or what? Oh, I'll get her, I said. Why doesn't everyone move to the computers and do some more research like what Charlene was talking about? As I went outside, the orange fall light hit my eyes. As I walked onto the street, flashing me back to the soccer fields in Ohio when I first encountered Sebi, and I thought of his message again. Farheen leaned against an already grated shop a block away, the sickly sweet smell of a Black and Mild floating around her. Her hands stuffed in the pockets of her shiny olive green bomber jacket. Her jeans rolled perfectly above her Jordans. Her straight hair blew across her face, catching on her earrings. What's going on, Farheen? I asked, coming to lean against the door too, so we both looked out at the street, busy this time of day. She talked too much, Farheen said, kicking her foot against the gate, making it shudder loudly. What's going on with you, though? Nothing. She was definitive. They towed the hastily put out Black and Mild on the ground at our feet. I didn't know anyone actually smoked these for real, I said. They do. I used to hang out my bedroom window and smoke, I said. Are you from the country or something? Yeah, I grew up in Ohio. What? Ohio, for real? What's that like? Totally different, kind of the same. I don't know anything about that. Right, you want to come back to the group or what? Did you think about writing what we talked about last time for the newsletter? I asked, moving onto the sidewalk to face her. I don't know, she said. My mom doesn't want me to talk about what's going on with my dad, in case it gets us in more trouble. I nodded. Well, maybe we can run it anonymously, like without your name. Maybe, she said. And joined me on the sidewalk as we walked back to the office. As we headed west, the bright golden sunset streaked down Roosevelt towards us, finding its way into our eyes. Damn, I said, shielding my eyes. How does it get through all the buildings? I hesitated, but then asked her anyway. Was that your boyfriend last week? Farheen didn't answer, and he bolted ahead of me at the intersection through a red light.
disappearing before I could catch up.
Neela, thank you, Seva, thank you, Lester. Thank you to the Altadena Library. I'm gonna start off with, this poem that was published in the current anthology, online. I'm Jimmy Vega, by the way, I don't know if I said that. Persimmons. Sticky fingers prickling persimmons, marigold like crinkled crackling leaves on pavement, or blood on terracotta. In my grandmother's cornea, one with golden hair, now graphite, she smiles at me from afar, from across lawns on Abbott Road. And I think of my cousin Jorge, who was sequestrado by men with masks or crooked teeth in Michoacan streets, summer and stone. Did he cry when he was hungry? Did they bust his lip with semi-automatics, and did he pray for my Marina Lupe's arms around him? 4:16 a.m., cold like gray or wet clay in the arroyo, while sticky fingers clenched for God or blood. Pupils christened in blindfold, falling over gravel and glass, like kissing ground in service of forgiveness or darkness. A woman walks on Beethoven Street, cradling cempasúchil flowers, and frowns at me as I taste iron and ash from burning Los Angeles. Sunlight hitting glass, color of persimmons, and I wonder if Jorge tasted tierra, or if he just quivered his sticky fingers, reaching for another cigarette. 6:14 a.m., cold like silent streets or pavement in the city he calls Patria. I want to be unsubscribed from my digital vertigo transient escalator rendezvous. When do we realize that our parents are not only the ghost light inside us, but smell after rain? A homeward frontier etched in cracked asphalt. I taste an emptiness that scratches the God in my throat when I remember that I once hurt you. I said, I taste an emptiness that scratches the God in my iris when I recall how much I've lost you. Los Angeles only feels this cute with you. New romantic hood skyline, pigeon fluttered concrete, where else? Only except to smell the world burning. Thank you all. This is the last one. It has a funny word at the end of the poem. It's the word is pareidolia. And that's just a phenomenon that we might kind of encounter in nature or any sort of man-made object. When we see that outlet on the wall and kind of start to see a face, that's what a pareidolia is. This one is Poem About My Uncle, after Jose Hernandez Diaz. Someone walks into the neighborhood liquor, mentioning the total collapse of civilization. Saddened, recalling my notes on humanism, I reach for my dusty scratched wrinkle of a gag. I thought I'd seen my uncle one day on my way to work down Venice Boulevard, crowning a dark baseball cap. Sometimes I try holding my grief in the palm of my hands, and sometimes I lose my focus, because even sustenance can terrain. In that reverberating glimmer, it was almost as if my uncle was casually providing his salutations to the not yet dead through non-verbal clairvoyance. Way a blue jay sparkles its tongue to show you light. way my father caressed my uncle's feet as he was dying. There are moments we call collapse between lines we say before a mirror, either static, near black, reflective, or other, dark brown mustard turf. I wonder when exactly I had realized I was too late for lucid goodbyes, hood, asphalt, quiet sound. I never seen my cousins save to bear their supper. Tonight, I cannot locate the little Zen pocketbook of folk tales and allegories my Aristotelian teacher would read, like the koan about a strawberry by the cliffside. If you listen closely, the humming rarely stutters, an acknowledgement of presence, like the last time I saw my uncle, he was already memory I could not cling to, ghetto bird, quiet display of suffering. How lonesome death, even with a nurse by your side. I tried telling you I can't be my own witness to the cosmic slow dance, even if the constant surveillance does induce ocular headaches, in such a way that privacy is no longer private nor free, in such a way that I ache before afternoon cat naps, in such a way that empire leaves me gasping, living near or living parallel or sleeping next to freeways is socio-political redlining. Don't kid yourself. We're well past savoir-faire by this line. In that haze of momentary flicker, my uncle, with his gaze, concentrating on asphalt, was my very own pareidolia, a stranger under the guise of my father's brother, when he lost to microscopic or otherwise tumors nesting in his brain, smiling. Thank you.
So we're doing fire and ice. I'm going to reverse it. I'm going to do ice, fire. We talk about bound poems. And I was at the No Kings rally. And my wife and I gone to a wedding. And the wedding was outside of Santa Rosa, and Santa Rosa had a No Kings rally. I had no idea that Santa Rosa is larger than Pasadena, but it is. So the found were the signs, and some of them were just right out. Amazing is sometimes a tight word, but some of them were exactly that. So there's a language warning, and let us move right in. Santa Rosa, California. No Kings Rally, June 14th, 2025. Rally signs with commentary by an observer. Elect a rapist, expect to get fucked. Iambic pentameter marks the day, blank verse exposing career criminal. I had to dust off my love beats for this shit. Millennials, Gen Z, the time is now. Let baby boomers lead, they know the way. Putting the dick in dictatorship since 2017. Thankfully, this sign above children's heads, both figuratively and literally. Honk if you never drunk tested war plans. Given the Iran bombing secrecy, did someone from the White House read this song? No kings since 1776. Promoters of the high imperial presidency might say that is the problem. ICE is Trump's Gestapo. I am afraid this is a company. Masked men with guns dream of Gestapo work. There is no Nazi in democracy. Depends on who selects the dictionary and who the speller is. Make Orwell fiction again. If Donald Trump knew who George Orwell was, he would have him placed on the no-fly list. Drifter. Grifter. This is not America. It's his America. He has the plane and crypto venture platform to prove it. I stand with Gavin. It is clear Ukraine is Putin's obsession, while California is Trump's dark passion. He has attacked our workers. He will release more water and text while we are burning. More thugs will come as ISIL from martial law expect. He will jail some elected. Unity is our first need. Third parties should not be fed. Our votes must be protected or they will be rejected. This is war. Do not fight for compromise. Non-violent good trouble calls. We run. We will not go quiet. And now for the fun. Your house is gone. Your house is gone. How do you say? Your house is gone. You call your friend, say, your house is gone. No, you can't start with, your house is gone. Start, I am so sorry. It is gone. Cry, yes, you do for him. He does not cry. He asks, is garage there? No, it's not. He asks, are front walls there? No, that's all again. I am so sorry. Your house is gone. Eyes staring at what no longer is there. Staring where he will stare when coming to see where ruins now rule his room collapse in ruin. Trees black and wind whipped, bend like weeping trees. Chimney left reaching skyward like charred chimney surviving night bomb church to preach survival.
Thank you. It's been an amazing reading. I'm just so excited about this new thing that we've begun doing, which is the open mic segment of the evening. I'll read it on the very end. So the readers from today's open mic were the ones who were other amazing women poets who participated in Teresa's workshop. So thank you, Teresa, for that amazing workshop. Our first poet is Mary from Tasha.
So this Haigun is a meditation practice that anybody can go through this awareness aware of, which is when you're forced to catalog the personal belongings. Today, Gavin Newsom signed a bill that will that will stop insurers from insisting that we do that. It's pretty traumatizing, but you can think, well, there wasn't that much for going from pillows and mattresses down to toothpicks and cotton swabs. It's overwhelming. The title of my album, which I started on Teresa's workshop on Saturday, is called I Quake Like an Aspen When I Recall My Catalog of Losses. When I arrive at the lot, a flock of mourning doves takes flight from the pit that once was my home.
They cooed one another from power lines stretched above the back fence. Spreading vines of magenta bougainvillea sway in the breeze. A hummingbird hovers over spires of salvia along the sidewalk. So much life here, despite the devastation. So different from my first visit after the firestorm. I had seen the photo of our burnt house, but once there, I struggled to absorb the disaster's immensity. My little cottage was gone. So were the houses on either side. The ones behind us, the ones across the street. Twisted, fire blistered metal, heavy layers of ash, and lone chimneys marked ruined parts. Near the front wall with its missing windows, 3 agaves lay wilted by the fire's heat. Fragments of glass froze like sea spray above what was once an ocean of flame. Yet there was no smell in the air, nothing but an eerie silence where once the noise of children playing ball with the filthy air. Last Thanksgiving, I took photos of the house. They are so gorgeous that it pains me to look at them now. A photo of the red wall of our neighbor's back shed with our columnar cacti in front. And in the distance, dark blue skies and cumulus clouds over the Sandgate Hills. A shot of persimmons from my neighbor ripening on my kitchen sill as golden light illuminated the Red Eagle Hills. Visible through that window is Carlos's white house with its green shutters and neatly manicured lawn. His family has a catering business. It survived the fire, but they lost $10,000 worth of laundered and pressed linens they kept in the house. When he told the women who worked for him about the loss, they cried for his family and also the hours of their labor that had gone up in smoke. I lost a small bear filled with honey gathered during the sage blooming in the Altadena hills. I know the price I paid for that honey. Plastic was nothing special, almost not worth listing on my catalog of losses. But the honey inside it, sweetened by sun, breeze, and flowering sage, held a scent like earth, but even sweeter, as if clay truly was a god mold and not just a clump of dirt. I think of the lost labor of those bees, hundreds of flights with thousands of blossoms, and all the construction of wax hexagons to hold that sweetness. Who will compensate for these? And yet, in the aftermath of the fire, they are back. After losing a life's wealth, the bees return to work the weeds and bushes that sprang back to life. So I water the hedge nettles and primroses, all the flowering plants, the pollinators. Lastly, I hope they know this spring. Red orange lilies bloom from wilted leaves and ash, conjuring new life.
That's right. Maureen, last theme. This is a theme. Well, everyone.
I too was in Teresa's workshop. She had really enjoyed it and keeping the opportunity for that. And I wrote about it. Giselle calls me to drive to her house. I am not ready to leave my cozy bed. I have set up my 2 flashlights and I'm working on a crossword puzzle in a puzzle book. You see, the electricity has been off since the end of summer. I cannot watch a movie or play boards with friends. So I got into my bed by 5:30 this evening. I thought the lights would come on, back on anytime, and I could continue my evening, my usual evening routine of eating dinner, washing the dishes, and at the sink and waving out the window to my neighbors who walked by. I told Giselle that I was fine. She asked me to look out the front door. I could see the flame at the canyon. I felt the furious wind blow as I stood in my open doorway. Giselle told me to get ready and she would ask for parking and move the wheel. Again, as I did in October 2017, I thought I would return to my house in the morning, so I did not take anything with me. I did not collect all the things that were so meaningful to me, like my family photos, the artifacts from Vietnam, Afghanistan, Burma, where I was born and lived the first 13 years ago. Leaving Burma, I did not have the sense, nor did the sense of taking anything with me, nor did my parents or family help me to gather my things. I arrived in San Francisco without my meaningful. In the Altadena file, I took my naturalization document, my passport, and my gold jewelry. I took my house deed only to find out later that I had not taken it. So I wrote, I've never written haikus or patterns, so I wrote this on that day. So excuse me if it's not, a bit of activity. Not ready to leave my home, furious winds, high flames. My things, my history burned. Displacement from history.
What was also in the workshop is Asha's Srikanthea.
Thank you so much for hosting such a beautiful workshop on Saturday and for opening up the space to do this. Reading the poetry. I also really lots of reading fires, and I actually signed up for a class at Pasadena City College in poetry because I just felt to tap into and so I'm gonna read today's 2 short poems that just recently written. It's actually a good study. It's Yeah, the first one is called Poles. When a stream spends millennia stroking the cheek of a rock, what's left out to dry is a body worn smooth, the hollow of a hug, empty. When a creek swells months after a fire, the earth searches for its newly missing roots. Untethered, it caves and slides, giving up the act and holding on. When the rains came, weeks too late, they washed the soot from the charred walls of our home, and also drained its color from sun-kissed to sallow. When you emptied your closet and walked out the door, I spent days in the spot where you last slept, wishing you had left me a deeper indent in the coat.
Open mic. Open mic, okay, open, the open part of open mic.
Okay, thank you. All right. This one's called Singing Requiem. I'm singing a requiem again for the first time in years. The last time was the same time I told my parents about her and me. They had driven up for the weekend to see the big show, which I upstaged with my big news of my big love. They didn't care that together, her and I, we became the whole ocean, morphed into magnificent mountains, our arms, the atmosphere, pouring out the twinkle of stars. They couldn't hear that we were both the composer and also her creation, the gooey warmth of an orchestra tuning, the thick honey of 100 voices dripping from the boughs of Symphony Hall. They didn't know better. To them, their daughter is gone. So it was a requiem, heavy and heroic, a choir of prayers to usher the dead to the unknown after. I'm singing a requiem again. My choral conductor says, music is a temporal medium. Music is time, not sound. I wonder if he knows. Every time I rehearse, my lungs squeeze into claws, holding tight to the bars of my ribs. My heart slams my sobs against the back of my throat. My eyes crush tears to the farthest hollows of my skull. I'm in that day, years ago, in Symphony Hall, looking out at my parents and my love, singing a requiem for us all.
Yeah.
Open Garcia. I've been in a convention. I was also in the workshop. And it's the first, I run the readings. And I wrote about the hands that he. My father tells me of the many fields he worked. Undocumented migrant, migrating from Bakersfield and Fresno to Nyla, California, Oregon, Washington State. It was the late 1940s and then the early 1950s, a time where his mano de obra was needed, his hands, his labor wanted, but the rest of him was not. Restaurants hung signs that stung, no dogs or Mexican for the money. Even in translation, in snippets, the curse, the venom is felt like a friend in the throat, a cold stone in the stomach, different from the hollow burning of hunger. My father became a migrant Catholic to feed himself and for his team. He was always so proud of what he is. He fed in the years of how he and his compañeros braceros built makeshift kitchens, workers of the earth, caked of earth. They were each other's envy, long welcome. How many times was he recorded? The answer is, no que se decir, cada ratito nos deportaron. Conveniently, La Liga always seemed to show up on scheduled days. Earth diggers, earth workers, earth people rounded up like cattle, taken to unknown destinations, sometimes jail cells, sometimes straight to the border and dumped like the spongy and morbid trash. Pero siempre regresábamos. Each time more determined, necessity and dreams, the migrants' strongest flame, wet back, evil, alien, lazy, dirty, spit, no gods, or Mexicans alive. 7 decades later, I watched the presidential candidate spew poison on TV. His mouth is a chatterbox, chock full of worry hate. He claims Asian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, are eating dogs and cats. The people that came in, they are feeding the cats. They are feeding the pets of the people who live here. Seasons of hate burn daytime, land, wooden hearts of mouths, fighting hands and feet.
Our next one is me.
I've been kind of a heater the past while with the jotting things in my phone, so I'm gonna be stepping in. My senses got activated when someone was talking about ancestors. Something really common about ancestors. So it's okay, I'll do that. Seeing my father in hell. It's never been a satisfaction, rather an emptiness and a hunger and transference. It's a pull and a sense of resistance. I never knew my father, and he never moved me with the capital K. But the bits that I did know were in his later years, when he secured his real estate in his own way of misery. If a person can create their own personal hell in life, why can't they do the same with death? The darkness and the sin, we caress, to be squeezed, then unfold and descend to bedrock. From there, the sight is no longer through the eyes, but in all the senses and intuition. Small cues of extra dimension, sounds, sharp and dull sensations of the body. A keen awareness of joys and my ability to bend. The load-bearing ability of joys to withstand force. The motion of a knob. All still in aberration. After all this time, a clambering from hell. The policing and the rope procedure, passionless and slow, useless and failure to protect. I'll see you in hell, my adolescent brother once shouted as he stomped away from the young man. He was correct about the place, just not the frequency.
Thank you. And our final open mic poet is Louise Day.
One. Short form cuts of the.
However, that's short, we need to wrap up.
This one makes sense, I'm a volunteer or wildlife firefighter, so this was today. It's called Fire Minutes. 3:55. Wake up. Not rested, like I fell asleep before I sang. Hands ready to close eyelids, and if they were orange, she comes to us with things. 5:12, arrival on scene. Structure fully engulfed with thick smoke plumes. I picture myself breathing in the atoms of blood letters, blood albums, children's stories. Since one primary search completed. Wedding ring found on the bathroom sink. Skulls of two small unrecognizable animals found by the front door next kitchen. 8:45, fire continued. Living room temperature reaches below 200 Fahrenheit. Bringing assessment for total loss. 11:10. Equipment check. Gear status, functional. Emotional status. Redacted. 13:30, end of watch. Found owner of wedding ring and evacuation ship. Some shifts you save nothing. Some shifts you save just enough to let it go. One minute.
1 minute?
Yes, I'm sure that. I wanted to own on or end on a more positive note. So my home was damaged and it did this weird thing, not the best for terrible, obviously, but it did this weird thing for me and they're looking here with what's going on. So this one's called a weather. One, you moved to LA, perfect weather, traffic on the 405 at all hours, astronomical rents, their first time going to a fortune teller, extra charge for the voice. 2, after a few years, you decided to live in Los Angeles. You never get tired of the trails at the park, the beach bonfires south of LAX, how we all become believers in something that will go on. Yet it's a city of contradictions that defies you. You walk past a concrete channel they call a river, a homeless encampment in the shadow of $1 million homes. You arrive at a friend's house party where you all feel young, exuding possibility, wanting everything. 3, love is complicated. The city is getting beyond measure, but it has taken so much. The Chinese massacre, Guardian Train, Manzanar, Chavez Ravine, Skid Row. You forgive it all, hit yourself for doing it, then forgive yourself too. 4, eventually the place reveals its hearts to you, the city of angels. They do not announce themselves. They arrive like morning light, like gradual warming you didn't notice until suddenly the day was out. You see them everywhere. In evacuation shelters, hospital corridors, your weekly running group, the friends who pulled up through the world, in their own armless way. You wash them off their bed or blankets, or nothing but the perfect practical attention that holds another's roof across the room. Perhaps they traded their wings for the weight of humans. 5, you hike up the Santa Monica Mountains where there's nothing but sandstone and snow. The wind rushes up the canyon walls, finding every fold of your shirt, beckoning you to fly. You realize the city has transformed from the place you live to the spirit that lives in the wind, and then we won't catch you.
Thank you so much. I will actually close with a close poem, and it's also a plug for the Altadena Poetry Review. This is the edition that was published by Teresa Mei Chuc and Hazel Harrison, Hazel Clayton, when they were both the poets laureate in 2018 to 2020. The 2022 edition is back there for purchase. Please get one because it is amazing. It was edited by Peter Jane Harris, who passed away last October, a year ago. So we miss him. He has left an amazing book for us. And this is a reminder also to send in your poems. There is a call for poetry for the newest edition of the Altadena Poetry Review that will be reviewed by, that is being edited by Lester here in Venom. And this poem is called Rotation and it is dedicated to my mother, who is 86 years old, and she gives me resistance to resist. Rotation. She eats oil, rolls fully, drops that flour into bubbling oil. You conquer, enforce rules, and travel. In another pan, she pops coriander seeds, tosses sliced potatoes. You build walls, deport passengers, struct asylum seekers. She serves spaghetti food with crispy bacon. We demand to people. You demand documents, order fingerprints, require face identification, archers, see where practice as we plead, where we wish. You cannot in their times vent, die, stop earth rotation. That waves we pass, we fly, we roll, our movement permanent. Thank you. Really honored to have you all here. I had the update, we don't have flyers for the next event, next meeting. There is an open mic. But if you grab the flyer that says fall calendar, it is on there. It's the Fair Poets Resist. There is an open mic and the lineup is just amazing. Right now, Ayako, William Gerva, Angela Perigongo, Veronica Reyes, Carla Rachel Sanders, and a young writer. Amazing lineup. So please come, open mic, bring your poems and bring yourselves. There are books for sale.